Hello, everyone. I'm Pamela. I'm a Python advocate.
And I'm Josh, and I'm a PM for the Python advocacy team.
And we are here to actually have the winners of our hackathon present their work. So we won't even be on this very much. But earlier this year, we had the Microsoft AI chat app hack. It was from January 29th to February 12th. And it was like 2 weeks of learning all sorts of things about how to build AI chat apps, especially using retrieval augmented generation. And we had talks from the community. We had talks from engineers and all product managers, all sorts of folks, sharing their best practices for making AI chat app hacks. And then we had a bunch of amazing submissions, and we picked we were able to pick the winners from those submissions. And we're so happy to have all the winners here today in order to showcase what they made for the hackathon and to talk about their different features. And we're pretty excited to get to see them show that off. All right, so now we are going to start off with Yuri to show off Doc Assistant.
Okay, hello everyone. I will show Doc Assistant Swaggy. It's AI tool to talk with all your web API endpoints that documented by Swagger and make a call to your API in style of Smart House command. Before diving into full application, presume we have basic web API constructed in C#, minimal API style, which have been consent and documented using OpenAPI. As a result, it creates user-friendly playground and documentation known as Swagger. This tool is graphically display all endpoints and even allow test them in playground. Additionally, it produces a JSON schema of all payloads and endpoint description. This tool is really helpful for front-end developer or other who would like to consume our API. However, there might be instances where we're too busy to develop front-end, web, mobile, or other client app. Despite those challenges, we still want to deliver the functionality of this exceptional cooking API to user as swiftly as possible. In such a situation, Doc Assistant Swaggy is a perfect solution. You can upload your Swagger documentation of API to it and simply instruct Doc Assistant, could you please get onion, egg, meat, cook the meat to cutlet, make a burger from those ingredients. Doc Assistant will strategize how to accomplish this task. It constructs Helder beans plan to resolve user requests, detailing each step of process. For instance, on the screenshot, you can see all the planned steps: get onion, get egg, get meat, cook the meat, and build the burger. Each of the steps involves executing web API, which Doc Assistant can perform independently. Finally, it provides a user-friendly output, eliminated the needs of crafting HTTP client or any front-end application. User can simply express what they would like to receive or execute, and doesn't feel like we are in future already. This project was developing for the Microsoft Hackathon, Hack Together, the AI chat app hack, leveraging the Doc Assistant Teams app that was community winner in Teams Hack Together, and integrating the retrieval augmented generation pattern for OpenAPI Swagger specification file. We create AI tools that allow you to talk with your endpoints, documented by Swagger. I'll begin explaining the process of uploading Swagger documents which hold your API details. This file generated by commenting on your endpoints and payloads and is compatible with most server languages. Our user-friendly interface allows you to monitor, upload the steps, upload Swagger documents from file or from URL, and input your API token if it's required. You can also view and test previously uploaded Swagger files. I'll demonstrate the upload process by using store Swagger file, which doesn't require any API key. The upload process involves 3 steps of uploading documents to Azure storage, splitting the large API file to smaller parts, and generating embedding for each of these parts using Azure OpenAI model, ADA model. Once uploaded, we can preview endpoints and start interacting with them. Okay, let's process to test the pet API. For instance, we could ask, could you make an order with ID 15 for pets with another ID with quantity of 10? Those API behaves like also can behave like Japanese anime character and provide pleasant response. In the request, you will be able to see Helderbeer's plan that semantic kernel generate for us to complete your prompts requested based on Swagger documentation. Afterwards, it executes this plan to complete your prompt request, and in response, you will receive. Those response includes a body of response. Most likely, it will be JSON. Additionally, it's possible to see Swagger file that's generated based on Azure search result that includes not all endpoints that you uploaded, but the best matched for our request. And diagram, it's used to illustrate the process flow upon the uploading Swagger documents. It's broken down into small chunks, for example, 1 endpoint per chunks. Those chunks are used to create embeddings. For uploading JSON, a corresponding embedding represents a JSON for Azure Search. When a user initiate request, Azure Search use vector type of search to identify most suitable endpoints. All located in JSON are then merged into new lighter Swagger files. The OpenAI GPT model then use Swagger file and user request to generate Helderbeer's plan to complete user request. And based on server response, OpenAI GPT model generates user-friendly answer. The ChatGPT models works quite well with understanding Swagger OpenAI documentation. Based on this document, it can write code, find an point, add comments, etc. I was thinking about why not to use it for translating user request to CURL based on documentation, and it does it quite well. However, after I deployed it to app service, I noticed that it failed. As by default, app service Windows or Linux doesn't have CURL tool. Then I decided to create my own language that will be easy to parse and build HTTP request. And this also works well, but yeah, most all requests I always need to test and maybe to rewrite code, catch some exception, etc. But yeah, but at least it works. Sometimes after hackathon finished, I learned about different plugins of semantic kernel that are already used in many companies. And I found really good extensions that translate the Swagger file to semantic kernel plugin, which can later be used for building different plans and executing them afterwards. This is really beneficial as it provides the possibility to execute many endpoints in one request. For example, to read some information from one endpoint, put it to another request, receive a response from multiple requests, and aggregate them, etc. And yeah, let's dive into code and we have all those strategies was implemented. Basically, when when user ask any question, firstly it use kernel memory to which behind use Azure Search to search the most matched endpoints, and then it merges those endpoints to lighter Swagger file. Then for future show what Swagger file created, it's uploaded to storage. And then when we have our lighter Swagger file and user input, we trying to execute it. And as I said before, I work with 3 strategies how to execute it: the CURL, the custom HTTP client request executor, and semantic kernel request executor. For CURL, basically, firstly, we generate CURL command. I can by using this prompt. Basically, in this prompt, I put some rules how it should generate it. Show for him some example how it should do this task. Also, yeah, said that you should put also not forget about the APK token if it would exist, and also show the Swagger file. And as a result, it generates quite well CURL. That later I use a CURL executor that basically in Windows machine it's run CMD and trying to execute CURL. And yeah, basically while receiving response, we sending it back to client, uh, which basically show it to user. Also it also summarizes it for not technical people, where we have one more prompt. Let me show it. Basically, yeah, it takes endpoint, it takes does the request was successful or not. It puts some information and ask please summarize everything that you receive to user-friendly text. You can also style it on which style you like. For example, I said I playing also with voice command and voice answering, and I saw that it's funny will be to use some Japanese voice and answer it in style like the anime personage, etc. Another another strategy, yeah, it was when the hackathon was mostly till the end, and yeah, we deploy everything, it doesn't work, and this code a bit ugly, but still it works. And here I generate my own HTTP client, ask to get the main words. Does it will be get, post, put, patch, or delete, and trying to execute it. And it also works well. But the most interesting, yeah, the newer part that I create is semantic kernel request executor. That basically here we import this plugin with plugin name API. Also with this command, if user requests a second time or once more, it remove previous one. We set up the temperature and top P for this plan. And basically, this simple code create really nice plan for executing all endpoints, and everything happen in semantic kernel behind, and it works really well. Yeah, let's.
Is there a prompt for that one?
Yes, it is, but basically this prompt it's inside the Helderbeans planner. It basically use couple example how to execute the prompt. Not sure that I will found it. Maybe I will try to execute some test. Meanwhile, it will be executed. I will show you this prompt. Uh, okay, let me. Maybe I have some more clear version of this.
Well, is this code
Okay,
still
can just
available
put
in an open source repository?
I can make it available if you like, but a bit later. Okay, meanwhile the test will running. I will maybe I have not a lot of time. I will continue demo and later we come back to result of this test. Okay, next I would like to talk a bit about kernel memory. By using kernel memory types, how we upload as our knowledge to a vector database, how we extract the information from specific file or web page, etc. In our case, it's a Swagger file, stream from file or downloaded from web page. How it creates chunk. For our case, we chunk Swagger file per endpoint, and we take all required information for this endpoint, and how to save the record and where to save the record. It really powerful framework or extension of framework that it's not dependent from basically the vector database what we use. We can put it the Cosmos DB, we can put it Azure Search, we can put it some other Chroma, etc. And basically it's configure everything for us. Let me in couples show how everything is configured. For example, yeah, here is the config for creating this current all information from our model, from our embedding model for response model. We put information of our storage. We put information of our vector database. And also, I didn't like the base implementation of this, and I a bit override it to be able to see information from each step, how uploading happen. And I also create my custom handler for partitioning, for creating chunks. And basically, all handler it looks like chain of responsibility patterns or pipeline, where we have simple method invoke async, and it's going one by one, where we do specific operation per each step. And also I create my custom Swagger splitter, which create which from here we have the
You're
split method to
breaking
split
up a bit.
per each chunk. Do you hear me well?
Now we do. Yeah, you were breaking up
Do
a
you hear
bit
me?
there, but we can hear you now. It was just breaking up a
Yeah,
bit.
so sorry.
But yeah, you're using the Swagger
Yes.
splitter to split into the Swagger files. I think that's pretty interesting.
Okay, and the last thing that I also would like to speak, it's about voice command. Basically, if you write in your application in Blazor, the best option is speech synthesize service. which place it in Blazor speech recognition NuGet package. Because you didn't spend any additional cost for Azure service. But in my case, I try to use Azure AI service text-to-speech and speech-to-text. Basically, it's text-to-speech for choosing the voice, configuring everything. It's a really powerful AI service in Azure that offer highlight transcription and customization of speech-to-text conversation. And also, as alternatives, you can use 11 Labs. Also, let's try to see which plan it's basically create in our previously test. I believe we can find it here. The base prompt, the base prompt is quite big. Oh, it's here, okay. Yeah, here is this magic prompt that was done by developers of semantic kernel, which teach ChatGPT or some other LLM model how to create this magic Alderbeans planner, how to execute it. It describes some rule. How
Do you mind zooming
I
in, Yuri?
believe
Yeah,
you can
zoom in a
find.
bit.
Do you see it?
Yeah,
that's good.
It starts with simple instruction as example. Basically, the ChatGPT really works well when you showing for him example as basically it's a main role, and what he basically doing all the time it's trying to continue what you told him before. And here is the example how he execute one prompt, and later he try to create the new plan based on user prompt. Here
and it also
he will
teaches
show.
them handlebars syntax too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, but I believe you can find this prompt in semantic kernel documentation, even if it's placed in Microsoft. And basically that's it about me. My name is Yuri Morozyuk. I'm lead of IT development in Ganvar Group Ltd. Ltd is leading energy commodities trading company, and also founder of small startup company Doc Assistant too. And feel free to reach me on LinkedIn or on YouTube on YouTube channel, which you can find it by links or by QR codes, and to discover some videos from my other projects, other Hack Together hackathons, etc. I hope you like the presentation, and feel
Thank
free
you,
to ask questions.
Yuri. We don't have any questions from the audience. I mean, I had lots of questions, but I think you actually talked about a lot of them. I think it would be great if you could, write some blog posts, like specifically about the Swagger splitting. I get asked all the time, like, what's the optimal way of like splitting up, large bits of code, large JSON documents, that sort of thing. So I think that'd be really interesting if you wanted to, talk specifically
We'll
about
think about it.
the Swagger splitting. And then of course, any code repositories that you can share with the viewers. We always get asked about that as well, so we can share them in the YouTube description.
Okay, maybe after a couple of days I will prepare some guidelines, etc.
That would be great.
Maybe
Thank
you can recommend
Yuri.
me how to write some how it's Microsoft blog or etc. How to share some developer guides, etc.
Yeah, we could get it on a Microsoft blog too. That'd be great. Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Yuri.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Cool. So
all right.
we're gonna have so next up we're gonna have Ashley show off a project that focuses on tokenization and some of the other aspects of using different languages.
Hello. This is my screen. Sorry. Wait.
Actually, if you just press present again and then switch your tab, you should be able to.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. So hi, my name's Ashley. So I and one other person won the best language category for the Microsoft AI Hackathon. Her name's Katie, and she is unable to attend today, so I will be presenting by myself. So a quick overview of our project. So it's very simple. It's supposed to parse interview documents about famous entrepreneurs and answer questions based on, say, what they think of issues or any generic questions, such as what does Elon Musk think about space travel, human space flight, or advice that maybe Jack Ma wants to give for younger entrepreneurs. So this is what our app would look like. And I'm just going to play this video, so there won't be much of a voice coming through, but essentially it looks quite similar to the template we were given, that we can just enter a question and it would give you the answer in English, also the source files, and you can ask questions in both English and Chinese, and regardless, it will give you the answer back in English, but it will be able to parse multiple languages. So for our app, couple of significant, blockers that we did run into was that it doesn't parse CJK languages properly. So, for example, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. Because initially it was sort of optimized for, I guess, more languages that are more similar to English, because CJK languages are sort of symbolic. So it would have more information in a lesser characters than English. So perhaps a couple of documents that we fed into, it would, maybe this sentence would have maybe 20, 30 characters. But essentially, Chinese sentences are pretty short, so maybe there would be like 7 characters in one sentence, but it would correspond to obviously the same meaning. This sentence would have more characters. And because of that, originally, for example, the max section length, limit, etc., it would be maybe 100 when you would need to cut it down for CJK languages. So what we implemented was a sort of language detector that would modify the section length, search limit, and section overlap, depending on whether the language was English or not. And this was a simple language detector, and we had to sort of do a bit of testing here just to see what was the optimal number for both of these languages so that it would be read properly. But this is what I think what we added, this changing the limit really helped here. So it was able to actually give a lot more accurate answers because of this change in the limit. But this is a simple change we did. It wasn't necessarily enough to make sure that it actually read all the text, because sometimes it would prefer to skip over, I guess, parts of the Chinese text when the question was asked. So we thought that it could be because the question itself might be asked in one language, so it would prefer to search up the documents in the language of the question that was asked, instead of looking in both sets of the documents, because we had documents in both languages. So what we did was we added a translating sort of, yes, it's here. So we added a translating API here that would call on a translating function that would be able to translate the question into the corresponding language. So it didn't really matter which language the question was entered in. Regardless, it's going to translate it into both languages. As you see, we send the parameters over, and then we retrieve. After we retrieve language, we would be able to send the question, save the question itself as both, and we hope this solution would work. There was a minor hurdle again because it seems like it still wasn't working correctly, and that was simply because we had to adjust the prompt. So originally, it's a little hard to read, but originally this prompt obviously was not optimized to accommodate for like 2 languages sent at once. And so we added a format here, like here it says, what does Jack Ma think of AI? And whoops, okay, and yes, and so this is the exact same question in both languages, but we had to return the answer in English just for now, because we think we'll be able to have it answer in both languages, but there wasn't enough time. But yeah, essentially by adjusting the prompt, it was able to understand based on the example given, and after that, the answers became more accurate, and that was basically the majority of what we have done. And another minor thing that we added was the word breaks. So again, these word breaks are sort of English characters, or like English language characters. So we had to add more CGK word breaks into the array. And with that, our app was working pretty well, and we had a few more minor adjustments, but it was able to answer questions correctly. And so yeah, for now though, we just have a couple of entrepreneurs in this app, but in the future, if we could get the chance to develop this app some more, we would be able to add more entrepreneurs and more documents. And yeah, I think that is what we hope. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for my presentation.
Thank you, Ashley. And I was curious, did you experiment at all with changing the system prompt to Chinese, or you decided to stick with English for the system prompt?
Except for the format, no, I think we have not tried it, but that's an interesting idea. So I think I would be interested in trying to modify the prompt even more next time. And there were, I think there are lots of also studies that I saw, which was about how to get it to tokenize languages better. And there was lots of research going on, obviously, but for the purposes of our project, we just sort of adjusted the configurations as we went along. So yeah, it'd be if we get the chance to, we would definitely be interested in trying out more of these ways to optimize the AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really, really interesting. Lots of people are experimenting with internationalization, and these LLMs definitely tend towards English. They have a bias towards English, and so we kind of have to actively counteract that bias if we're trying to get answers in different languages. My guess would be that with the English system prompt, it's probably favoring English responses. But maybe the fact that you did that double translation means that it's getting better at responding in the right language, because that's really tricky when you're trying to get it to optionally respond in one language or the others. That's really, really interesting. So your hack actually inspired my colleague Anthony to improve the text splitting for this template repo. So he ended up doing many of the things you did. So he did update like the sentence boundaries, the word breaks to be more CGK compatible. And he changed the chunking to be based off of token count instead of based on characters. Because your whole issue was that the characters took up more tokens in the Chinese language. So your hack inspired a massive change, and then also inspired this blog post where Anthony went in and analyzed a bunch of languages and looked at like the token ratios. You see with Japanese it's very, very high. Chinese also has a fairly high token ratio, and that's why it's important to be trying to do things based off of token counting instead of character counting. So we learned a huge amount from what you worked on there. So we were very, very happy.
Oh, thank you. I think I did hear about it, as did Katie, but it's great to hear it from you in person again about this, about our contribution. Thank you. It sounds good. And I think I will be able to drop the repository URL as needed. Otherwise, if there's any other questions, or I can wrap up my presentation.
I think that's all. Thank you, Ashley.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so next up we have CJ. I'm going to bring up CJ now, talk about Dubsbot.
Hello. Am I all good?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hi, everybody. My name is CJ, and I worked on Dubsbot, which was my submission to the AI chat hack. So I want to go over a little bit of motivation here for my project. I'm a recent graduate from the University of Washington, so class scheduling and meeting graduation requirements was on the top of my mind. So I had a thought to myself when I was brainstorming ideas for what to work on, that there should be a better way to learn about and discover courses to take at the university. Right here, I have a screenshot. I don't know if it's very visible on the stream right now, but it's a screenshot of what the course registration tool looks like at UW. So it's just kind of like a table of classes you can take, and you filter basically just by which department. So in order to get any information on what these classes are actually about, or if you're interested in them, you have to click into them, read the description, click out, check what's available, which section's available, and it's a little bit weird. It's not very streamlined. So I thought there must be a better way to do this, and what better way than have a LLM read all of the descriptions and all of the offerings and be able to present those to you easily. So my motivation here was to solve an issue I have faced myself. So not knowing what courses to take. I wanted it to actually be useful to a wide array of people. So those people would be specifically UW students in this case. I wanted the scope to be manageable, not be too complex, but not be impossible to finish within the hackathon time period. And I also wanted to explore multiple capabilities within Azure and OpenAI. So I here have a kind of flow of the challenges I faced, and I'll kind of go over each of these things and then how I overcame them. So the first thing was that I actually needed my data in order for my chatbot to read from. So I had to get all of the course schedules. And this was my first and probably the largest portion of this hackathon was figuring out how to get this data into the way I wanted it to. So the course schedules are just on a HTML web page here, and there's a link to every single one for every single department in the school. And for example, if you click one of these, you get one of these kind of maybe ugly looking tables with values and stuff that's not super helpful. So my first problem was, how do I take these time schedules and ingest them into my data store so the LLM could take a look at them. So to do that, I first tried using the built-in. I tried downloading them as a PDF and uploading them as just like a pure PDF and having the intelligent, DocuSense or whatever figure it out. That did not work. It was not great at figuring out what was actually important, what actually meant something, and what was just garbage and didn't mean anything. So I built my own special HTML parser that works specifically with these time schedules. So I first run a really fast, or I guess it's not fast, but a simple script to web scrape every single HTML file from that page that we just saw before, and then it puts those all in this documents here. So these are just a bunch of HTML files, which is all those time schedule in pure HTML. And then what I have here is a parser that's using Beautiful Soup in order to parse out this HTML. So I kind of go through, I analyze the structure of these HTML the HTML pages and figured out, okay, how do I know when a new class is starting, or how do I know when a row is about the class that came before it? So for example, this class has one session here, so I need to be able to associate this session with this class. So I had to kind of analyze the structure there and determine how I could extrapolate the structure from the HTML code. So that's just a bunch of code here that's using regular expressions and the Beautiful Soup library to jump to different headers, extract things between HTML tags. And then what I'm basically doing is building up this transformed schedule string, which is just a long string that is a cleaner and more human readable description of the class. So for example, I add like keywords like course description. I expand all of the abbreviations for days into full day names. I do some cleaning up so that things are normalized. And this was kind of the largest part of the work, was figuring out what was the best form that this data should be represented. And then how do I make it like that? So that kind of both is the get the schedules and clean them up parts. After that, I needed to chunk everything so that I could insert it into the search index and it not have every kind of class logically grouped together. Because the way that I was designing this was I wanted when you search the index, I wanted a class that was identified to be retrieved in its entirety. I didn't want one session to be left out of a chunk and sort of appear on the end, outside of the chunk that's returned, and then the information is lost. So inside of my transform strings, I added just like a delimiter that's just like a line that says like, okay, this is the end of a class here, so that when I text, so that when I wrote my text splitter here, I just go through that split up page, and then I chunk everything so that each chunk is just one class offering, and then that is what's going to be put into the index. Then after I was able to get stuff into the index in a way that I liked, another big issue was getting the assistant to actually return the correct class and not hallucinate a class that maybe had like a different number associated with it, or a different department associated with it that appeared in the course description or something, but that didn't actually relate to what the course was about. So in order to do this, I sort of took a database approach, where I ended up extracting from each class some key fields, and then adding those as key fields in the search index that's hosted on Azure. Here you can just see a couple, like the level of the class. So for example, if it's 100 level, 200 level, 300 level, the major that this is associated with. So if it's a math class, or if it's a computer science class. And I associated those with every single chunk that I added to the index, so that when I did retrieval later, I could do strict filtering based on these criteria. And this allowed for the output to be to never give me something that is totally not related, because it would be filtering on these strict levels and majors. So yeah, that was me tagging everything in the index. So I needed to make sure that I had the appropriate fields, and that they were updated appropriately. Once those fields were in place, I needed to actually be able to use them. And this is where my exploration into OpenAI function calling came up. It was just something I was not familiar with before, but I did a lot of learning within this hackathon to figure out what could I do with function calling. So for anybody unfamiliar, within the requests you can send to the LLM, the OpenAI LLM, you can ask it to look at a string of text and extract these key parameters that it thinks will match. So for example, this is kind of my layout here, where I have this function that's called filtered search. And what it will do is I'll pass the user typed query to the model here. And what it'll do is using its power, it'll try to extract the major, the search query, the level, and I also added some more stuff like the instructor. And I have here the descriptions of like what each of these things should actually be, along with an example. So for example, in the major category, it's like if the ask is related to a specific major, you plan me to schedule with one communications class and one anthropology class. This should be set to a list of the majors they are querying, and then we want this to be a list. There's multiple majors and only one thing if there's only one. So this was a lot of trial and error here, figuring out what description do I give it so that it gets what I want and not what I don't want, and that was a big struggle. And adding and figuring out, okay, what should I add as a search? What should I add as like a parameter here to be found, and what should I just keep within the search query for the LLM to figure itself out? So I ended up with just these few things here that I felt were the most important to always get right, so you never got wrong information. And then using that information, you can go through the level and the major and the instructor it extracted, and then do different things based off of it. So for example, here, if I see that there's a level specified, I use the special querying language here to do a strict filter so that we only get the chunks that are tagged as being in that level. And that's similar here with the majors, where I had to create this JSON file, which was a mapping of like long major names to their abbreviations. So for example, at UW, computer science and engineering is abbreviated as CSE. I did a mapping here so that if it detects computer science and engineering, it can map that to CSE because it's a little bit cleaner, and it likes doing that retrieval better. So then once all my filters are set, I send that over. I use these filters to filter the query to send to the index. The index will retrieve what it thinks is the best fit. That will go to the LLM, which will read it over, figure out what to keep, summarize it all, and present it to you. And then, yeah, my little last point here was to reduce hallucinations but increase helpfulness. And that kind of was my iterative process where I would add something new, realize that makes the LLM hallucinate something, and then figure out, okay, how do I get rid of that hallucination while keeping the functionality I intended? So here I can actually have the app up and running. You can see my little UI here, where you can ask questions to it, and it'll respond. Hopefully it's working around here. Yeah. So for example, it's really, really great at knowing what classes to recommend you based off of your interests. So for example, here I ask, I've taken this class CSE 233, and I like operating systems. So what should I take next? So now here I can realize, oh, you've taken 233, and then it recognizes that 451 is an intro to operating systems class, and then it has 233 as a prerequisite. So it's like, okay, this is the prime candidate, and it will give you that. And it's similarly really good at if you have very general interests. So like if I want to learn about investing, it'll search through and just try to find like every course that is applicable here to investing, and then it'll give you all of these examples here. Since I didn't specify within a major within a specific level, it'll just give me from across different. So you can see this is like a finance, and this is a different class here. So it'll be broad if you want it, and smaller if you like it. So you could ask follow-up questions, of course. Hopefully this works. Of those, which is a finance class. If you wanted to narrow down, what it was giving you. So for example, it's maybe is not exactly correct right now, but it gave you one of the finance classes it saw. And then what it does is it actually links the citation back to the original HTML document. So if you click that there, you can actually see the original HTML as was taken from the course website. And this can let you double check, make sure everything is A-OK, and that you actually want to take the class. So yeah, that's a really large overview there of the challenges I faced and how I worked through them all. Here are some of the key takeaways from my project. Was that most of the work is actually intelligently ingesting your data. You can't, for more complex applications like using these HTML files, just giving those pure files is not very good for getting correct or useful answers. So a lot of the work is figuring out, okay, how do I represent this data correctly? How do I represent this data helpfully? How do I put that into the index so that it's retrieved effectively and that I'm not missing things? And to that point, it takes a lot of data to be useful. So that means that your storage quickly increases and that your processing time quickly increases. For example, if I want this bot to be helpful, it has to know every single major and every single department across the whole school. So that took a lot of, that just takes a lot of storage and making sure that everything is stored correctly. And then my third takeaway here is that the LLM will fight you. It will not automatically be perfect at everything. And every time you think you fix something, you realize that you actually introduced a new issue where it will hallucinate something new or it will drop something that it was including before. So a lot of the time it's wrangling the prompts you're giving the LLM and the way you're storing the data so that you reach the perfect balance of like, okay, it won't give me the objectively wrong answer, but it will give me something that is actually useful. So yeah, that's my presentation. My DubsByte repository is public, and it was linked as I think in some previous posts if anyone wants to take a look. I have some similar write-ups here about what I did for each stage. Yeah, any questions about my project?
Well, I thought it was great. I think Josh was also a big fan of this because Josh recently, had to deal with course selection at college, right?
Yeah. So just looking at this implementation, so I feel like a lot of the course selection, like websites and like systems, I think every single major university and minor university in general, they're pretty outdated, pretty hard to read naturally, and especially if you're coming in as like somebody who's never undergone like undergraduate like education or something similar, then it can kind of be a little bit daunting to like search through everything, and having a chatbot to just like type in like, oh, I'm interested. Specifically, you said your chatbot is like really good at linking courses that with like your interests. That's like something that I think is would have been very useful and very like nice to have as a student. Less headaches, trying to figure out, oh, I'm like kind of interested in this other field. Maybe it's unrelated to my main focus, my main major, but I want to kind of like maybe minor in this, but I'm not sure yet. So like what's related to this that's like available, like this is super, super good for that, even for things that are within your major. Sometimes it can be confusing about that too, and what prerequisites are required, all of that. It's got everything. So great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was really excited to see that you had function calling. I don't think I realized that when I was going through your code. And that's a technique that I recommend to folks all the time. I actually have a blog post on it, on function calling for more structured retrieval, where I show something really similar to what you did here. So I think that's really cool to see that you are using function calling with additional fields in the search index, because I think that can be a really powerful approach. It does take more testing and evaluation to see if it's working well, but it's exciting to see that in action here.
Yeah, I think it's super cool tech, and I definitely want to look into it more and figure out what's the limitations and what's the what can it do.
Yeah. In my experiment, it can, limitations, how many functions you try to get it to call, like less is better. And of course it's limited right now mostly to the GPT models. So it's harder to, swap in another model once you start using function calling. But it's pretty cool otherwise. Well, thank you so much, CJ, for sharing your hack with us. And that hack won best use of data, I think is what you called it.
Yeah, best data source.
Best data source. Yeah, and that was because of how much effort you put into the custom parser and splitter and all that. Awesome. All right, thank you, CJ.
Thank you.
Awesome. That leaves us with one more. And our next presenter will be Zed, and we're excited.
All right. Okay, can you all hear me, right?
Yeah, it's even a little loud, maybe. Is it a little loud? Should we go a little lower?
Now, much better?
I think that's good.
Okay, cool. So first of all, this was not the demo I submitted early on the chat hack. And so basically I am presenting something that I'm currently working on. It's basically takes on primarily designed for Australian financial market. It's in the same space what I had before in the education space, but it's kind of in the borderline of financial advice and then the financial planning versus financial education. So just kind of like give you, let's see if I can go to the next slide. Yeah, there we go. So generally the problem statement is that in Australia, then there is a fair number of, let's say, in terms of the financial terms and the languages are fairly different compared to when you have a population that is very diverse and they're all coming from different backgrounds. So there is quite a lot of information gap between when it comes to budget management, debt management, investment planning, and then there is a rising number of financial scams. So the idea here is that a chatbot might be able to help. So actually, in government, Australian government does have a website called Money Smart, and you can see these are government websites, and then there are regulatory bodies that creates fair bit of an information, but you still need to know what you are looking for, and you still need to go through these set of content to be able to actually understand what exactly the solution that you are looking for. So that's kind of where the current status is. And the solution is, in this case, what I try to look at is it has to be very easy to understand, straightforward, and then it needs to follow the trusted sources. So these two pretty much come out of the box from the Azure OpenAI sample demo. And then when it comes to personalized guidance and not financial advice, and then where it is comes into the play is that the user now can upload documents. And then the idea here is that compare my budget with the baseline. How is the regular budget would come in compared to my specific budget, and how am I doing when it comes to my investment planning and things like that. So that's where these bits comes in. So while doing these, couple of the additional, I call it additional requirements because there is a fair bit of a requirement that's already covered by the repo already. And these additional requirements are around that when we talk about universal access, meaning by default, when we enable the repo, it is open to public, but as soon as you allow, say, for example, the document uploading, I might want to search, I might want to get the information, but I might not want to go sign up for upload my document yet. So that's what I mean by universal access. In terms of registration, it's basically I want to be able to sign up so that I can upload my document. That's the other two part. These two took me a fair bit of a time to kind of sort. Actually, I am now using, I'll kind of come to that in a second. And then the other one that I also, whenever we're uploading, the users is uploading the privacy related document, we don't want to even hit the cloud. It needs to be kind of rejected upfront. So these becomes very much on a user's use case specific, because some bank, some financial institution might want to let you upload at the stuff, but they would do reduction rather than actually reject. But this is a B2C scenario where you will actually have to reject. And then the other one is, which is around the mobile accessibility, is that's one of the things that I'm working on. As a matter of fact, this is something I plan to submit back to the repo. And in terms of the content crawling and indexing trusted sources, that's I have added. Again, this is kind of piggybacking on the HTML extension that we already have. And that led me to do the adaptive citation display. So in this case, if it's a URL, I'm actually exiting the browser, and if it's a PDF file, I'm showing it in a separate content. So that's the thing. And I also had to deal with custom prompt, and I enabled the custom prompt. So if we kind of look at these two first, so if you see, this is the up-to-date repo today, and you can see you need to log in to be able to search. And whereas if I would kind of like, I haven't logged in, and I would say, let's say, for example, a difference between savings account and a term deposit, how do I select one? And this is piggybacking on. And the thing that I wanted to show you here is really, once it's finished up, hopefully, and you can see it's finished up, and their filters are, I have added a separate filter here, which basically looks at where the groups and the OIDs are not the same, are empty. You can also pick them up in this scenario. And here you can see I logged in as my iCloud account. And so the iCloud account doesn't really belong to a group. So I'm not picking up the group, and I'm actually picking up the other stuff, right? One other thing that here you can see that if I click on it, it will basically open up in a new window, which kind of piggybacks on, so I'm kind of piggybacking on that category. If you remember, there is a filter called category field. So I'm basically populating the URL in the category field. It's a hack. I didn't want to, one of the things that I didn't want to do, I want to stay away from the repo. So I kind of want to do as little as possible and reuse as much as possible so that I don't need to kind of piggyback on it. So that's a bit to also to show. And in terms of, like, say, for example, in the developer setting, you can see one thing to here to call out is that your CIM login is the one that I think here you can see the CIM login is what the Entra external identity comes in. And if I kind of log out, let's say if I would clear chat and log out, and so hopefully it will go back, and then the same scenario here, I can still search for without logging in, I can still search for content. And here the filter, if I can just wait for it, and hopefully it will show up. No, you cannot click on the filter up until it's done. And you can see here the filter is only showing the missing what's in it, what if the groups and OIDs are empty. So I'm letting it openly search for it. And if I then try to log in, and you can see one thing, which is I can use another account. And this is the glory moment where you can actually create a new account. And in this case, you can actually create whatever. I would create a new one. Admin at sense.com, or maybe is that. And
where are you creating the new one? Where did you just type?
So this one, because when we do Entra, like, as you know, that you have this flow, and in the flow you have a new creation account link also pops up, and that basically triggers the account creation flow. And in there, so when I did that, I now got a code in my email. Let me just check it out. And once I paste the code.
Okay, so is this happening in a pop-up window right now? Because we're not able to see the pop-up windows. I'm just trying to visualize what's.
Oh, yeah, it is on a pop-up window.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just imagine the user login happening in a pop-up window. So you're making a new account, you're entering a code.
Yes, let me see if it. I think I will show you in a second if I can. Does that? Yeah. So if I and now you can see I have a new account here, but also wanted to go back to Entra. So you can see if I refresh, you can see my, and yes. So you can see I just created a new account. If I click on mail, z@crowdsense.com, federated, and then you also have that. So these are the accounts that got created automatically in Entra, and I am on the Entra B2C instance. And what I was going to say is that in here, I also get to see pretty much almost all of the details that I enter. Entra is fairly flexible, but you have to read it quite a lot to be able to kind of get what you want to do. It's a lot of reading. And so that was my only thing. Other than that, it is now possible. I have to little bit open up. If I go back to that code-wise modification that I had to make was around the authentication PY. I think if I can, this one. So you can see I added a global content filter, and then I had to modify it a little bit so I can return the global content filter. That's about the modification that I had to make to be able to. And now I think Matt is going to do the real ones. I have to roll back mine and put it back in. So that only thing that I would also want to say in this case is that you will also have to do some changes in the question input because the question input is disabled. It picks up if it is access enabled is yes, then this gets picked up automatically as a disabled. So when we say globally accessible, it could mean you need to authenticate to be able to access the global content, or do you mean globally accessible means it's open to anyone and you only do. So that's the thing that I ended up going for in a B2C scenario where globally accessible means you don't need to log in to be able to access the content. So if we kind of go through that motion, then I think there will be some changes around that question input area as well. So I'm hoping, because he said he's going to do it ASAP. So let's see what does he do. So that was the thing. And the other thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is the privacy protection in document upload. I did a little bit of research. I think the thing that in this scenario specifically, you will have to use the language services because you kind of if it's already too late if you are doing it with a document intelligence, and if you're doing it with say AI search, it's the document then already have gone into. In my case, I want to reject the document upload process, so that would be that. That's something that I'm kind of working on. In terms of the mobile accessibility, I think there is a story already that is what the next step. And so part of this project would also bring some of these bits and pieces that I would submit back. And I already got some of the bits and pieces are working. So that's still under go. I think I already clicked on it, the adaptive citation. I already showed that you will end up clicking, say, for example, in this scenario, you will end up clicking on going into a external site. But if I would then look at, let's see if I can see, I don't have any content in this one. Let me get out. Let's see if I can go back into this one.
Something happening in a pop-up again.
Yes. So there you go. Almost there. There you go. And so when it comes to this manage file uploads, so we have some document already here. One other thing that I wanted to show you is that when I search for, say, for example, Money Smart, so what is accumulation fund? So that is what is. Oh, sorry, that was the code. Copy, paste, yeah. so this would hopefully getting the data from the PDF file rather than from the. So you can see here the PDF file got picked up, because if you see the gloss there, might said gov.au. I just put it up and put it in there. So here I am. Sorry. This one actually went there, so my code didn't work. This was supposed to be displaying here, and this would pop up in a new window. One thing that I wanted to show you here is that there is a prompt that is over here for this. And when the idea here is that if you go back to that, is that I want to do dynamic prompt based on uploaded document. And in this case, what will happen is that if the uploaded document is for budget or for investment or something similar, then we would use the prompt template to piggyback or augment. So in this case, what I'm doing is that if I do budget and say if I would now, because here now the budget, and you will see that when I click on it, the document is now budget is the keyword, but it's actually looking at the keyword, going into the prompts.json. So I'll look at it in a second. Let's see.
Oh, so
There we
budget is mapping to another custom prompt you have somewhere.
Correct. And so that prompt then gets augmented to the base prompt. So I have a base prompt. So if I go back to the code, you can see, let's see here, backend. So here I have that's my prompt JSON file where I have the budget, and I can have savings, I can have whatever I want. And this gets augmented on top of the base one. And again, I'm trying to stay on that parameter of the not try to change the code too much, because one of the problem of changing the code too much is you get out of sync, and then you have to do quite a lot of work to get back in the game. So that's kind of where things are, and so and I think we did that. So that's kind of where we are. And in terms of this one, mobile accessibility is what the next step for me to kind of deploy. And once that is done, then hopefully I will be able to launch the site. That's where we are at. Yeah. Cool.
That's very exciting. Thank you, Zed.
Thank you.
Yeah, really cool, Zed. Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see some of those changes, and of course, like not going too far away from the forked repo can save a lot of time in updates down there.
Yeah, every time there's a commit, my first job is to sync. So that's why I cannot get up. So I have a one other thing to add here. So I have put all the RAG stuff in a one resource group. Everything else is all the, let's say if I go back to this dev, you can see everything else I run off of this. And so every time there is a new things coming up, I spin up, because it costs about, I think, $3 or $2 a day or something roughly to keep this, because most of the cost is coming off of the RAG, the document intelligence and the search and everything. So, and then as soon as I sync it, I delete them. So that's kind of the trick.
So you've got a dev app service that's different from your prod app service, and then all the search and doc intel and OpenAI is in the RAG group. Is that how you're doing it?
Correct. So then I can keep. So every, like for example, 1.4.5.8, I can have a resource group work on that, and then just delete it when I'm done. And then I have because you cannot use the slot, deployment slot. So instead I use the resource group to kind of do that. And I can create as many resource group, and you just have to copy the environment across. to this and change bits and pieces. You just do AZD up, then you're all good to go again. So it's quite a lot of cheating, yes, but that's the easiest way to go.
That's great. It's so great to see how folks are, actually putting this into action, and that you're going to actually be opening this up for Australians. So you're going to make this so that anyone could access without necessarily needing to log in if they don't want those login functionality, right?
Correct. So basically, the site, if you kind of think of that, what will happen is that it would be as if MoneySmart had a chatbot in a way, and as if ASIC had a chatbot in a way, and it would be publicly available. But whenever they want to be able to add and get a basic advice on their own personal stuff, then I would want them to upload the document. And one other thing that I'm also contemplating, whether or not let them download a document for budget template and have them fill that out rather than try to let anything go out, because the PII information becomes a very, very big problem. So that's the area that I need to solve. But that's. But in general, this is an area where I see quite a lot of interest from the market as well. Cool.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Zed. And Zed won for most helpful community member. And as you see, he's continued to be very helpful with all the discussions on our open source repo as well. So it's really exciting to see the improvements that he's working on.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. And those were our 4 winners. So thank you everyone for watching their presentations. I learned a lot. Like we weren't able to look at like every single line of code when we did the judging. So now we were able to actually to see more. Josh, what was your thoughts on it?
I mean, I learned more about all of the projects. All of them are have a lot of different moving parts, and like obviously we judged them with a lot of different people, but also there were a lot of projects, and all of them are not like super simply constructed. Like like I said, there's a lot of moving parts. So it's really interesting to learn new things about each of the projects, and then see where some of those projects have gone in the time that the end of the hack happened, because there's some new implementations for some or new additions to some of the projects. So yeah, it was really awesome.
Yeah. And on that note, we are thinking about having another hackathon. So if you all are interested in that and having a part 2 of this hackathon, holler in the comments and stay tuned to see what we offer in the future. And we hope to see you at a future hack together. Bye, everyone.